Hey, this is G355 showing you how he did the trees in his Song of the Alchemist Skyrim picture. And I started off using a colour, sort of nice earthy colour for the background of the trees, a base colour called satin. And I filled that in all over all the trees. Like I said, that was going to be my base coat. No white highlights. The satin would be the lightest sort of shade once I got the darker colours and the darker tones on. So what you can see me adding here is yet another colour that's got a slightly pinkish finish. It's called Putty, and just use that to show some of the ridges and some of the cracks in the bark of the tree. And then I start using Khaki, which is again one of my favourite colours. I use that quite a lot, and that just adds a sort of extra dark dimension to the putty that I'd added. So you've already seen me using a light tone and then two medium tones. I wouldn't say any of the tones are dark yet, because I did want the trees in this picture to be receded into the background, so I wanted them to be nice and faint. I didn't want them being too dark, but of course I did want some of the ones that were closer to us to appear a little bit darker than the ones in the distance. So got some marks in on those trees. Now putting in a second layer of Khaki on I think just that tree in the middle distance, just to give that some slightly darker areas so it would stand out a bit more. And then using, I think this is powder blue for the sky, and I just did successive coats or sort of layers of powder blue. I didn't use another blue here, I just used powder blue, and I think I did 2 coats, 3, possibly even 3 sort of coats of this colour, just so it was slightly darker blue at the top and then a much paler, lighter blue sort of fading out. And then yeah, you can see me using Khaki on this tree that is closer to us, you know, just adding a lot more dark stuff in there, using the thick nib as well, not the thin nib, the thick nib, so I got a slightly more rugged kind of look to the bark, which is what I wanted. Now I'm using just, I think it's meadow green, a very pale green, just to suggest there's some moss on the bottom of the trunk, and I'm using that in the foreground tree as well, but as you're going to see, I'm also going to add a darker green on top of that, again, so it stands out and looks closer. And that's olive green that I'm layering up on top using the thin nib to suggest that there's moss in those little crevices and cracks on the bark. So in the distance I wanted it to be snowy because it's Skyrim, so I use a colour called Frozen Lake, which is one of the winter limited edition ones. It's a nice, really cold looking blue, icy looking blue, just right for what I wanted. And then layered on some slightly darker shadows using Cool Grey number 2, I think it was, just to add some shadow within the snow, and then a bit of Cool Grey number 3 just for the shadow cast by the tree that's closer to us.